Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a speaker that will talk about leadership in a way that you probably have never heard before. She's an executive and team coach. She has 20 years of experience. She's worked with very large companies, Procter & Gamble and GE Capital. She's been a great leader in her own right, leading a team of over 1,000 people, spreading 8 countries and 5 continents. But what you will draw from today is the insights from her book, which I recommend to all. It's about leader's block, and how that is the opposite of potential. Let's give a warm welcome to Ritu Mehrish.
Thank you. Good evening. What if I told you that the number one reason for unproductivity in leaders doesn't even have a name? What if I told you that it costs an organization the size of Nokia up to $750 million every year? What if I told you it's likely lurking in your organization and costing you in ways you don't even know? Will you allow me to share what I know about this silent crisis? Some nods? Great. So let's start by naming it, because unless we name something, we don't recognize it. And I call it leader's block. Now, we've all seen in movies when a writer goes through writer's block, right? She's a brilliant writer, she's got great ideas, and then something happens. She's not able to write, and she doesn't understand why. Leader's block is similar. Leaders want to lead, but then something happens. They are not able to perform on top of their game. They are demotivated, disengaged, and they don't know why. Over the last 10 years, I have interviewed and I've spoken to thousands of leaders across the globe, and every single one of them has experienced it. And here's the thing. As I had more and more these conversations, there was one thing that intrigued me the most. If it was so common, so widespread, but leaders weren't comfortable talking about it. There was this fear of, will I be judged? Is there something wrong with me? Am I the only one? And I wondered, why? Is it because we expect our leaders to be superheroes? Or is it we as leaders expect ourselves to be superheroes? Well, in my case, the latter was true. So let me take you to the year 2002. I was running a team of 50 analysts across 3 countries. We had just finished streamlining our entire reporting process. And this is a Tuesday morning. I'm sitting in my manager, Donald's office. And I can't believe what I've just heard. See, 2 days back, our promotion list came out, and I wasn't promoted. Of course, I was disappointed. So I decided to stay at home, just to brood. So this Tuesday morning, when I came to office, Donald called me to his room and said, Ritu, do you know what your team did yesterday? I said, no. He said, your team barged into my room and said, why isn't Ritu promoted? She's one of the most deserving managers. And I went, oh. But wait, the story doesn't end here. Flash forward 5 years, I'm back in Donald's room. And this time, it's also different. Few of my team members went to Donald and said they want to move out of my team. They're not happy with me. And as I heard this, I felt this knot in my stomach. I felt so betrayed. I wanted to say something, but I decided to keep quiet. And as I walked out of Donald's office, thinking, what happened? How did I go from this rock star to this flop star? What happened? And now I realized I was in the middle of a classic leader's block. The months that followed were some of the hardest months in my life, because leading team was my biggest strength, and now I seem to have lost all confidence. I was like, I've let myself down, my team down, my organization down. And then there was this fear. Will I be tagged as a failure now? Will my clients know? Will my teams know? Will my rating be impacted? Will I ever get promoted? And the most important thing, why and how is this happening to me? And these are exactly the questions that leaders ask when they're going through leader's block. So then, why does leader's block happen to high performers? In my research and in my work with leaders, I've come up with about 10 such reasons. And I'll share some of the examples, but I would love to know from all of you, what are some of the things that you've seen happen, either happen to you or to people around you? So here are some of the examples. First one is sudden transition. An experienced strategy leader, Henry, went from managing 20 analysts to now 2,000 people. Totally different skill set. Found himself floundering. Another example of clashing working styles. A bright product manager realized her working style clashes or is entirely opposite to her managers. Struggled to flourish in the role. Change in culture, and we heard about culture from our previous speakers. Change in culture, a young founder, Tim. Company got acquired by a big tech company. Change in culture, change in environment, couldn't fit in. And these are just few of the examples. Well, in my case, it was role fatigue. I had been doing the same role for over 5 years. My learning curve had become flat. My performance metrics were green, but I was bored and miserable. I had lost that spring in my feet, the twinkle in my eye. I just wasn't operating at my full capacity. Leaders' block's impact doesn't stop just as leaders. And that's the thing. It has ripple effect. It has ripple effect on people around them. Imagine a demotivated leader trying to motivate a team. Imagine an uninspired leader trying to inspire a team. Imagine a lost leader trying to direct a team. And here's the most painful thing. I had seen my team slacking. The team meetings became briefer and shorter. People were turning up late. People were not coming up with new ideas. And this frustrated me even more. But it's only now, looking back, that behavior was a direct result of my own leader's block. But what really got me excited and inspired to write the book on leader's block was the extent of the impact it has on the entire organization. So first, for the more practical and pragmatic people like me, there is the tangible cost. And I'll try and do the maths, so stay with me here. A leader, on an average, let's say, costs $10,000, okay? $10,000 is salary, $100,000, sorry for the maths. He's unproductive for 4 months due to leader's block, okay? So he's unproductive, $33,000. Cost of an unproductive leader for a year. Now look at an organization size of Nokia, 22,000 leaders. And even if 10% of those leaders go through leader's block, we're talking 2,200 leaders. So 2,200 leaders into 33,000. That's $7.5 million. Now, look at the impact each leader has on their teams. So if the average size of the team is 10 people, that 7.5 million becomes $750 million. And this is only the tangible impact. And as I'm sharing this, I would love for you to think about all the leaders you have in your organization. But what really actually got me excited was the intangible impact. Every conversation that I had with a leader, colleague, a friend, I wanted to know more. And actually, I saw a paper trail leading to the intangible costs. It's difficult to put a dollar value, but imagine the cost of a bad business decision, a dysfunctional team, a wrong acquisition, or corporate values getting eroded, or shareholder values getting eroded, and the list goes on. There is no way that organizations today can afford to ignore leaders' block. In fact, organizations need to play a big role in helping their leaders, in supporting their leaders name it, normalize it, and then navigate it. Now, luckily, there are symptoms. And I know the first speaker talked about symptoms. There are symptoms that works like early warning signs. Now, we've all had early morning blues, Monday morning blues, right? Yes, Monday morning blues? And that's fine, because it goes away. In few hours, few days, it goes away. But if those Monday morning blues continue week after week, month after month, then you know you're heading towards leader's block. And you can't afford to ignore leader's block, because then it has serious consequences. Leader's block, if not addressed, can lead to anxiety, burnout, and even depression. So leaders recognize it and acknowledge it. But there are ways to overcome leader's block. There are 5 approaches to getting through leader's block, and I'll share 3 of them today. So the first one is to let it go. Now, as leaders, we always want to be in control. There's a bias for action. But sometimes the best thing to do is not do anything, especially when things are not in your control, like the macroeconomic condition, or let's say a company restructuring, or the pandemic, things that just need time. So let it go. Second one is seek out feedback. Remember Henry, who went from 20 to 2,000 people? That's what he did. He was struggling. He reached out to some of his peers, and over a glass of wine, he admitted he was struggling. His peers gave him some good advice and some good inputs, which he implemented. But the beauty of that is that now he had these people as his accountability partner. He had these people as his cheerleaders, and they were invested in his progress. So seek out help. Reach out to people you trust. The third one is my favorite: change lanes. Leaders' block can actually open doors to new perspective, new changes, new opportunities. And maybe it acts as a catalyst for the growth and the learnings that you always wanted to do, but you just didn't do it. In my case, my manager advised me to do a 6 months rotation in marketing. I mean, I resisted it. I was finance, marketing just didn't make sense. But he insisted, and I'm so glad I did that, because that became the springboard to who I am today. So make that change. Use this opportunity to make that change you've always wanted to make. Now, leader's block is common, it's serious, but there's good news. Just as some of the best and the greatest works of literature came from writers after a period of writer's block, some of the best and the greatest work of leadership may come from leaders after a period of leader's block. So, please join me in taking the conversation about leader's block from closed doors to open corridors. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you ever so much. I never get tired of hearing you. Thank you so very much. And thank you for that book. It's a beautiful book. Jury members? Yes. Christina, that light is so, you look like you're from heaven. You are from heaven, obviously, but you look like that. Yeah. Christina.
Thank you so much for sharing your own experiences and talking so openly. A very welcome discussion. So how do you go about, do you work with companies, do you help them, and what do you do if you go in working with someone?
Right. So the first question, what do I do when I work with them? So firstly, we look at, as you said, we look at symptoms. I think every leader who's gone through leader's block will recognize that there are early warning signs, feeling of disengagement, becoming cynical and skeptical, being negative about everything. So there are early warning signs. And when I work with leaders, not only for themselves, but also for their teams, to start to look for these early warning signs. Because, it could be an early time. So there's a common American phrase, getting into the funk, right? So if you can catch your leaders or yourself when you're in the funk, you can quickly fix it. So my job sometimes is even to help them recognize that could you potentially be going through that path? And some of the common triggers, since I did the research and I spoke to all these leaders, are there. So for example, a transition. A lot of time leaders don't realize when they get promoted, that's when they need maximum help, because leaders then don't want to ask for help because they think they know it and that's why they've got promoted. So things like that, right? Like the triggers and the early warning signs.
Mm-hmm. And you look beautifully unblocked. I must say. Since your blog, your best work as for authors is definitely after that. And we are so grateful for all these insights. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to listen to our fifth and final speaker in these finals. He is a psychologist, he's a trainer, he's an author, he teaches at the University of Amsterdam.